Hey,
Hello,
how are you
hello.
doing?
I'm
How's
doing
Finland these days?
Finland is great. It's sunny and we are
Is
experiencing
it?
great weather at the moment. So really enjoying
What
life.
what is great weather for a Finn?
For Finn. Yeah, it's 12 degrees and sunshine and it's light. The
You
days
know, I
are
did
getting longer.
a few months ago. I did a training which was consisting of Swedish, Finnish, and Estonian startups. We were in Tallinn, and
Hmm.
on the way back, I was in the Finnish bus. They drove me to the center of the city, right? So they
Yeah.
told me you guys have more than 150 different names for snow.
That is true.
Yeah, so very interesting. Very interesting. They started actually. So this is this kind of snow. It's this kind of snow.
Exactly. It is true. It is true. But I think it just goes to show how big of a role snow plays in our lives for about 4 or 5 months of the year.
Well, we can't wait to learn from you, Amel. Look, to set the tone for a you know no filter real conversation. I would like to start with this. What's on your mind right now? You're the CEO of a company, so
Hmm.
give us a what's the three most pressing issues you're having on your mind right now?
Well, currently, if I think of things I've been working on it's Tuesday today that we're recording. So Monday, Tuesday, the first thing is sales. I'm also heavily involved in sales. A couple of big deals that we're working on have been working on for a while. Then another thing is summer holidays. The holiday season is coming up, so starting to get everyone aligned with that when people wanna be off and how we're gonna cover that. And then the third thing at the moment is I hate to be a cliche, but AI. So it is. I think it's something that should be on everybody's mind, especially those working in tech.
In what way is AI on your mind?
In two ways. One is how do we protect ourselves and our technology? What is our moat going forward? It's changing. I believe the speed of which agents will be taking over is faster than anyone thinks at the moment. But companies are going to start coding in house as opposed to what they used to be buying externally. There's going to be changes there. So that's one aspect that I'm looking at it. And then the other thing is, of course, how can we better make our own operations more efficient and more value adding for the customer than using AI. So I think I see it as a kind of double-edged sword, how it helps us, and then again, how we protect ourselves from it as well.
Love it. Love it. We can get with the conversation in so many directions, but I want to
Yeah.
take a step back. I want to take a step back and start with why did you decide to become the CEO of a company? Because you've been
Hmm.
the managing director, the CEO of FiBAN,
Hmm.
the business angels, but you joined the company. What inspired you to become a CEO of such a company? Maybe give us a little bit of an idea what the company is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if I take a step back, I graduated from business school. I was a very typical economics major, studying in university, and back then I thought, the only thing that I want to work with is finance and in banking. And I started my career in Nordea, which is the largest bank in the Nordics. There in private banking and wealth management. After a while, after working there for 5 years, I started to realize that hey. Considering the type of person I am, maybe a large, rigid financial institution isn't the most ideal workplace for me, even though I had a great time and there were fantastic people I got to work with. So I joined FiBAN, which is the Finnish Business Angels Network, which is actually one of the largest business angel networks in the world. So with close to 700 members, all of which are private individuals investing in startups. I worked there for over 4 years, close to 5 years. And towards the end of my time at FiBAN, which is a nonprofit association, I started feeling kind of the pull back to business. And I thought, okay, I've been working around these startups and growth companies for a long time now, kind of advising them and connecting them to investors. Now's my chance to actually test, is my advice any good? And I wanted to get back into an operator mode. So then why I decided to join Cuckoo specifically, that had a lot to do with timing, both timing in my personal life. So I felt that, now is the time for me to move on. Then also the timing of the company. So Cuckoo was in a very, very interesting stage. This was about 3.5 years ago coming up. So the company was already pretty stable, had a good, solid, recurring customer base, was already profitable, had managed to raise funding. I thought was in an interesting time. That now is the time where we kind of take the company to the next level and begin scaling and growing internationally. And then also what resonated me a lot was what the company stood for. And Cuckoo is a technology company. We have a workplace well-being solution. So we're selling mainly to larger companies or also smaller companies, but companies where the majority of the people who work do sedentary work. So helping people take breaks during the workday, thus becoming more productive, recovering faster, and all in all performing better in their workplace. So in a nutshell.
Which is what we're going to be talking about today, how to
Mm-hmm.
thrive in the modern world of work, which is super complex.
Yeah.
It's getting more and more complicated. We were discussing like a couple of weeks ago, I did a keynote at a conference and I was talking about how the pace of change has been accelerating. According to McKinsey, they did some report last year and they found that the level of complexity globally nearly doubled since the mid-90s. This is not just because how we feel it through our phones and consuming. It's actually real. And think about 2026, geopolitical issues, economical pressure, inflation. There's so many moving particles. The people working from home, but also working in the office, hybrid models, like there's so much complexity. And I wonder, what do you find right now is, let's say, broken in the way we design workplaces? What are some of those things that you find need to be addressed?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, and I agree with everything that you stated. So starting with just the way that we work, which has changed dramatically, and the expectations towards how we work. If we think about, we don't even have to go back in time that much, not even as far as 10 years ago. It wasn't expected that knowledge workers are constantly online. They're being bombarded with Slack messages or team messages and emails, and social media is blowing up, and you name it. So the amount of kind of just information coming in has skyrocketed. The amount of kind of alerts and notifications, things that are in many ways a huge distraction for people working. And then I think it's safe to say that these, as you mentioned, the kind of geopolitical and kind of the external factors and the external noise. I think there was a really, really interesting statistic, which I also heard a while ago, which is the number of content that companies are putting currently out on the internet, and a lot of it, which is currently being mass produced by AI, is so much that no one in humanity could ever read even like a percentage of it. And I think that's just kind of a very concrete example of where we need to start slowing down. If we just keep putting these kind of metrics that, hey, I'm just going to take a very concrete example. A company's marketing department needs to produce, let's say, 5 articles on their webpage every week. That's going to lead to people producing 5 articles on their webpage every week, but it's not going to lead to the results of people reading those 5 articles, or those people that you want to be reading those 5 articles and having the impact that you intend. Because no one is going to have time to be doing that, because everybody's running around in their own direction. So one of the things that I think we need to start with is understanding and kind of realizing that even though the way we work, which has been completely revolutionized and is being, I think we're only in the beginning of this AI revolution, which many say is going to be as big as the Industrial Revolution in the way that it changes the way we work. We have to understand that the way we humans are built has not changed and cannot keep up. So something which is not evolving as fast are our brains. And humans cannot work. They cannot be focused and high performing all day, every day, and constantly turn on. Our brains cannot do that. They've never been able to do that, and they never will be able to do that. And that's why we have to kind of start redesigning not only how we work, but where we work, when we work, and also really start prioritizing the way we recover even during the workday, because that's the only way we're going to be able to maintain high levels of performance. So it's a long answer, but it's also a very complex question.
Often when people talk about productivity, even when they come to me, they think it's about how can I do more? How can I be focused on more things? And it's often not about doing more. It's about
Exactly.
simplification. What you're talking
Yeah.
about, simplification. In
Yeah.
this crazy world, it's not about more, it's about finding what works and saying no to everything else. Is that your approach as well as a CEO?
It is. It is. It's about staying focused. And I think that's it. I think the ultimate task of a CEO and of any leader is to point the direction. And then I believe in a very strong kind of autonomous culture. So telling people kind of where's the direction, what are your goals, and giving them a lot of freedom to operate and to kind of build and to execute towards that direction. But I think it's extremely important for everyone to know where the direction is and what the goals are, and also to a big extent why are they. And something that I think fluctuates a lot is the direction. I think we have to be honest, because the world is so unknown at the moment, and there are so many kind of unknown elements that all of the decisions that we have to make as leaders or even as individual contributors with a own area of responsibilities, we have to make those decisions on a lot of unknowns, and just kind of uh, build upon that, considering that this will be like this we are changing this course to be like this. And people need to kind of understand that we are flexible in this sense, but it cannot lead to paralysis. So we can't kind of be paralyzed that because we don't know the answer to A, B, or C, we can't choose, so we're going to stay and wait. No, you have to kind of, based on the best knowledge that you have, make a decision, point the direction for people, and move towards that direction.
We have actually a very interesting question from one of our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
Evelina Tineva. She has two questions, but this one is related, so I'll start with that one.
Yeah.
So her question is, how do you keep your team aligned with your vision, especially as it evolves, and what has been most challenging in that process?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. And I think even if I look back a couple of years, we used to make our company's strategy together with our board. The strategy period used to be for 3 years. And now we've changed it in the beginning of this year to have the strategy period only cover 1 year at a time. And I think that goes to show that pace at which things are changing, that there's no point in now creating a strategy for 2030, because we're not going to know the elements or not going to know enough about what the way the world is working in 2030 to be able to build a meaningful strategy which will cover that area. And I think given this context, back to your question, people need to be told why we're making the decisions that we're making, what are our goals, and then when we change direction slightly, or change some of the goals, or change some of the metrics, they need to be told why it is. And then I think the kind of very basic leadership lesson is always it comes down to communication, and it's not enough. I think it's a very common story that by the time the CEO, for example, knows what is going to happen and why and which direction, they're already kind of tired of talking about it and thinking about it, because they've been sparring about it with the board and with the investors and so forth. And then they tell it to the team and expect the team to know from the first time. But then you got to realize that the team is only hearing it for the first time. So they need to be told and sparred and, and told about it and repeated several times before they're kind of really on board and they really understand. And people are different in that context. Also, if you think of your team members, some people need to hear it twice before they believe it. Some people 5 times, some people only half of it, and they're already running in that direction. But the number one thing I think is very kind of transparent and honest communication. And I'm a firm believer, especially, and this is based on my personal experience. I've been a leader for about 10 years now. Is that when you explain to people, you don't have to go into detail, but on a high enough level of what we're doing, why we're doing it, or why we're changing direction, people will be more than happy to jump on board. But if we kind of leave out parts or don't reserve enough time to communicate, it's going to be a lot more tricky to have people move in the direction or be able to kind of rationalize their own decisions based on the direction where you want to go.
We had another great leader on the podcast, former VP of HR at Microsoft, Chris Williams, and I think we spent 40 out of 60 minutes of the podcast. He was talking about the importance of having a clear vision and communicating the vision behind everything. And I remember, it's probably a couple of years ago, but I remember he said, people need to hear the vision 3 times just to hear it.
Yeah.
Let alone to understand it. So you have to repeat the vision and repeat the vision and repeat the vision. And I wonder if you can go a little bit more just to give us your way to do it. Because, I mean, you're a CEO, you have a bunch of other things to do. Like, how do you make the time for that? Do you have any kind of maybe also give us a bit of an idea whether you guys work hybrid or from the office, but what are these kind of structures? Do you have like a Monday meeting, like dailies with the people, one-on-ones? How do you navigate so everybody's on the same page, but then you also have enough space to do the CEO stuff?
Yeah. Very good question. So we have a offsite once a year, which is usually 2-3 days where we're away, which is a mix of strategy and then also kind of informal, maybe some sports, some exercises, beers, people getting to know each other and so forth. That we do annually. And then what we do monthly is we have a monthly gathering where everyone comes to the office physically. We eat lunch together. We go through a high-level status of what happened last month. What are we focusing on this month? And then we have weeklies. And weeklies are every Monday. And it's also a usually 20 to 30-minute catch-up of highlights from last week, what we're focusing on next week. These are kind of the main elements. And when we're communicating things, I would say, if we have or when we have renewed our vision, for example, or we have a new strategy, it's something that we cover in the offsite, we cover in a couple monthlies, and then we cover in weeklies for about 6 to 7 weeks in a row. So people start getting the repetition, but it needs to be kind of, in my opinion, it needs to be ingrained in the way that we're working. So because everybody's calendars are very full and there's a lot of other things going on and other focus areas, I'm not a believer in just adding more meetings to everybody's workflow, but rather having it just naturally eased into as a part of the way we're working in other ways. Because I think something which has to do with what we spoke about in the beginning, which is kind of this overstimulated way that we're currently working, everybody with all of these apps and channels and this kind of instant hyper culture, we need to create more space for thinking and more space for focus work rather than the opposite.
Most organizations, unfortunately, and I get to work with many of them, the default state is what you just described. People go to the office, they open their email, they start doing stuff.
Yeah.
And they might have the quarterly or annually goals, but they don't work in cycles. And also your company, your product is connected to working in cycles. That's how we are as humans. You intensively working, then you need a break. You intensively working, then you need a break. You have a day of being awake, then you're sleeping and recharge. We're designed to work in cycles. I would imagine back in the day, the hunter-gatherers, right? The hunters, like, just they hunt an animal, then they take a break. They go around the fire. Like, we work in cycles. Exactly. I don't know about the last one. Everybody who's anthropologist or whatever, please correct me on that one. I'm just guessing, but it's like, it feels like we lost our way a little bit. Even back in the day when there was the Industrial Revolution or people being working in factories, people were given mandatory breaks. But it's so much different when we work in the time of AI and computers and all this stuff, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like so easy to start working and lose yourself, and all of a sudden it's 6 p.m. and
exactly.
it's do you also see the same, and how do we
Yeah.
change that?
Yeah. I think this is a very, very interesting topic, and one which I talk about a lot, because I think if if we think of the era after the Industrial Revolution, where people were working in factories and there were mandatory breaks, and people didn't have to lead themselves that much. Everything was regulated. The working hour, you punched in when you came and you punched out your clock card when you left. Then we went to this era which we are currently in, which is hybrid work. That's how we currently work. Some are at the office, some are working from remote. A lot of companies are struggling with that at the moment. I believe I'm a true believer in hybrid work. I think for the most positions or occupations, it is more than fine. Um, but people are on their laptops and there's no clock cards, and kind of the amount of work and the way we structure work is very independent. And I think we've kind of overcorrected to the other side, where for a long period of time, too long, it has been almost fashionable to be extremely busy. And the kind of notion that people have almost been bragging. You see these on LinkedIn all the time, like, hey, I did 11 meetings today, whoa, or whatever. This kind of notion that when you're extremely busy and your calendar is full, you're working efficiently. And that is actually not true. And if we take a minute to look at research, and if we take a minute to look at what data shows us, it actually shows us the opposite. Microsoft did an extremely interesting study, and I can if someone wants to hear more about it, just ping me and I will send it to you. They had participants attend Ford meetings, and they had these brain wave monitors attached to their participants' heads. So they're wearing these caps which were measuring brain activities. And there were two parallel study groups ongoing. And one was a group of people attending 4 back-to-back meetings. And if you look at the brain activity that is left in their third and fourth meeting of these people doing 1 hour back-to-back intensive focus meetings, you can imagine, without even seeing the pictures, what was left of their cognitive capabilities by meeting number 4. Because we humans and our brains are not, we're not designed to be able to focus extremely well and be at our best cognitively, and also our sharpest, and make the best and most rational decisions by meeting number 4. Now then, by sitting in meetings 4 hours in a row. And 4 hours in a row is not even a lot for a lot of people. Many would argue that, come on, I do 8 meetings in a row. And I also always respond, hey, that's nothing to brag about. That's actually terrible. Then on the flip side, the second group in this meeting, they had short 5 to 10 minute breaks in between each meeting. And when you compare these pictures and the brain activity of those who had short meetings between every, short breaks between every meeting, their cognitive areas were just lit up completely differently. The way where they were able to perform, the way they were able to rationalize, the decisions that they were able to make were of better quality. And it's just, it's mind-boggling, literally. And what I think is so simple, and in a way very assuring for a lot of people, is that we humans are very resilient. And when I say that we need a break, usually after every hour of intensive work, it differs for people. Some people need a short break after 45 minutes. Some people can go pretty much 2 hours, but 2 hours is the maximum for many. But the way our brain resets is actually very simple. So data also, and there's a plenitude of research about it, shows that even a short break as 3 minutes is enough for the majority of benefits. And if your break is longer than 3 minutes, if it's for example 8 minutes, it's not significantly better. And that's, I think, something to bear in mind. So 3 minutes is actually a really short period, and it is already enough to claim the majority of benefits. And I think another thing which is very good to bear in mind is that it according to research, it doesn't really matter what you do on your break as long as you are offline. And what I mean with that is that if the break that you take is that you stand up and you look out the window and you just kind of pause and look out the window, it's as good as if you might aimlessly walk around your office, or if you go and take the stairs, or if you do push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever. And I think that is something which is actually very merciful for us human beings, because it means that there are a number of ways. There's a way that everyone can find suitable for themselves, and it's really simple to do. And according to there's a very big, it's an American study who studied all of the different ways that people take breaks. The only way that by taking a break you can do more harm to your brain and to your focus and your productivity is if you spend that short break scrolling social media. That was the only negative way of taking a break that they found in this very
how
big
are most
pool
people
of research.
spending their breaks?
Exactly. They are doom scrolling. And that is the only kind of break that you're actually better off not taking.
I love it. So if we round it up, 5-minute break is kind of pretty good. I mean, 3 minutes probably too little. I'm just thinking about practically for people listening right now and they have to start creating breaks. 5-minute breaks. Is there a difference between, I don't know, I worked focused work for 30 minutes and I have a 90-minute focused work? Is there a difference between the duration of a break I need to design in my calendar?
Not really, no. But of course, the longer the focus period, the longer the break after. But it's not so straightforward. So it's not like every 30-minute break you need a 5-minute break. Every 90-minute break you need a 50-minute break. We humans are more kind of resilient and complex than that. So the main thing kind of bear in mind that you need a break, some kind of break. And even after, and there's also kind of, then it depends on what is your kind of vitality level in general. Did you sleep well? How are you feeling? And other factors play into part then, which will more impact on how kind of your overall state is. But I think something that we talk a lot about with our clients are very simple things. So the default meeting time in many companies is an hour. So what if instead of changing the default meeting time from 1 hour, change it to 55 minutes and change it to 50 minutes? And one thing which is actually has been, it's very simple, but it has helped a lot in many companies, is that people used to, people who wanted to schedule only 50 or 55-minute meetings, they used to put it like let's book a time from 3 o'clock to 3:50 or 3:55. And then they would still find that it would always run overtime into 4 o'clock because most people have a new meeting starting at 4. Thus, with many of our clients, we've flipped it and it's always worked, is that instead send out a meeting invite that starts 10 past 3 or 5 past 3, because those meetings will end at 4, but nobody will go over the allocated kind of 4 o'clock.
That's
simple.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Never thought about it. Starting the meeting at 3:10.
Yeah,
10 past
exactly.
3.
Everybody will have free time from 3 to 10 past 3. Because nobody will end a meeting which is supposed to end at 5 past 3. But if it's supposed to end at 5 to 3, 3 is the hard stop.
That's right, because people maybe have another meeting or something.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
beautiful.
And something which I also recommend to many managers, and it works really well in a lot of our clients, is to come up with these rules together. So one of our bigger clients, for example, they have a no meetings Friday policy. So on Fridays, no meetings are allowed under any circumstances. And that has been a great way for people to have focus time on Friday. They get to kind of clear their to-do lists, plan their next week, start the weekend off with a high, and they have extremely efficient days on Friday. And they've had a lot of innovation actually happening on Fridays because it's a focus time. And there's a lot of other things. There's some companies who decide that, Tuesdays from 10 to noon, for example, you cannot book a meeting with anybody. That's focus time for people and so forth. But I think it's not, these are not kind of rules that should be on everybody in every individual's table to come up with themselves, but it's rather things that should be designed organizationally and just agreed upon.
Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, obviously, this is what you do with your product. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing that you get your own medicine and this is part of your culture. But for leaders out there, for founders, for managers in corporations, how do we create this type of mindset as part of the culture of the organization?
Mm,
Because I mean, even
yeah.
on Fridays, if people don't have meetings, doesn't mean that they're individually taking breaks. Like, how do you make it as part of the DNA of the organization?
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of things that I want to touch base on. One is regarding something that we do with the majority of our bigger clients is we do manager training, because the number one thing regarding how people are able to rest and recover and take care of their well-being and how they feel at work is related to how their manager is leading them. And that's why they're kind of one of the single most important groups to train, because it matters so much what is kind of the narrative that they're speaking, what kind of example do they show. The worst kind of things that a manager can do is tell people to do something and then visibly act differently. Like, the worst kind of things is a manager who will brag themselves that, I'm so busy I don't even eat lunch here. That is I think the definition of creating a toxic culture. So that's the first thing. Luckily, what we know, and I think everyone can relate, is that the majority of people and leaders and managers, they care about the people they're working with, and they want to create a culture where people are performing well and people are reaching their targets, and people actually want to come work. It's not because it's a soft right thing to do, but it's also because it's financially better for the company to have high performers stay. You don't have a lot of turnover. You don't have a lot of sick leaves and so forth. So it's also the better way to lead in all of these kind of aspects as well. So the first answer to your question is that managers and leaders, they need to be taught, and they also need to be educated and their questions allowed and so forth. And then to your second question, how to create this kind of culture, is we know from a huge number of customer questionnaires and also user questionnaires, the number one reason why people do not take breaks during the workday is because they feel their calendar doesn't allow it, because their calendar is jam-packed and full. And then the second thing is if they feel that there's the culture and the way their manager addresses these issues isn't allowing it. So I think if we think of your example, if there's a day as a no meeting Friday, and if people don't have any meetings, they have nothing in their calendars which prevents them from organizing their own work in a way that, I'm going to focus for 60 minutes, then I'm going to take a 5-minute break, then I'm going to focus for 60 minutes, or however works best for that individual in person. If there's nothing in their calendar hindering them, and if they have been told by their manager that, we highly recommend maybe even show some graphs or some data, which I have plenty of, and I can more than happy to share. People will prioritize these things.
It's very
The,
interesting. There's the
I think,
stigma, right? There's the
yeah,
stigma about the um, everybody who's a non-smoker,
yeah,
you cannot take a break. Like, it's like if I take a break, it feels like
yeah.
I'm slacking and I'm not really focused. And even I have people joking I should become a smoker so I can take more breaks.
Yeah. Isn't that horrible? Isn't that horrible? I
It is
know, I
horrible.
completely know what you mean. Um, one of the challenges is that we humans, we are resilient, and we can go quite a long ways before we are kind of at the brink of burnout, and before we are at the brink, and before it comes visible how tired we are, and how kind of cognitively challenged we are, and how we start making more mistakes. So when you skip breaks, you can go quite a ways before it starts showing in your quality of work, in your productivity, in the way you recover. And that's a challenge, because we know that when we catch people too late, when we skip these preventative measures, it becomes much more expensive to get those people back. And that's becoming an epidemic and a huge problem in many companies. And a lot of the questions that we get from especially prospective companies, our clients, have to do with these kind of preventative measures. And also the number one return on investment that we talk about is the decrease in sick leaves, and then a decrease in euros that come from occupational health care. because it
Is
is
there any
expensive
numbers?
to
Is there any
push
numbers
people.
that you have like?
Uh, yeah, yeah. The Finnish Institute of Occupational Health, they actually did a study. There was two companies. One was Nokia, which is a famous Finnish company for obvious reasons. One was a big insurance company, and they used Cuckoo for 3 months daily. These people taking part in the study, and this Finnish Institute of Occupational Health found that there were four major categories of positive effects that came from taking breaks and from using our product. And the one which was most notable were the financial benefits, which was 2 days of sick leave less per person annually. And a lot of that had to do with even muscular skeletal related leaves. So people having back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, and then also a lot to do with cognitive function and abilities as well. So helping with the mental state as well. We humans are holistic, and when we don't move our bodies, it's bad for our mind as well.
Would that be the most effective break? Because you said the most ineffective break is checking your phone and scrolling, doom
Yeah,
scrolling, whatever. But is the most effective break some that includes movement and
it
stretching?
is. It is at least standing up and taking steps, getting blood flowing again, changing your position. In even in the 90s, there was a huge school of thought that occupational physical therapists came to the office and kind of showed what was the correct angle to sit in, and what's the desk height, and what's the chair height, and how should your screen be, and so forth. And workplace ergonomics used to be considered kind of very stiff in that sense, but research has evolved from that a lot, and the way they are teaching it these days is that actually the only thing that people should be worried about is always changing the position. So the best way to take care of your workplace ergonomics is to change positions, because that's what the body really needs, and that's what really helps us perform better as well. So it is, if you have a standing desk, alternating between sitting and standing. Sometimes it can be, in some offices, startup offices, you can be from going from a couch to a chair to a beanbag and so forth. But one of the simplest and most effective breaks is just standing up and walking around. Maybe, grabbing a cup of coffee, not from the nearest coffee station, but walking a flight of stairs up and getting it from the neighbor department or so forth.
I think it's super exciting, this type of conversations that we're having right now, because as a leader, as a founder, as a manager, it is so exciting that you can design the culture that you want. You can just take ownership and say, you know what, I want my team to be productive and to be well taken care of. Both.
Yeah.
And they go hand in hand.
Exactly.
And this comes from, the beginning of our conversation, talking about how we set priorities. What are you focused on? What is your cadence in planning? Allocating 20, 30 minutes for auditing what you did today and planning for the next day based on your goals and objectives and priorities. When you structure your day in your calendar, set some time for breaks.
Yeah.
Set some buffer time.
Exactly.
And it has to be part of the leader, right? And also
Yes.
where are people sitting? How do we move? What is the vibe and energy? And even what do you live in the kitchen? I worked with the organization, Amel, a few years ago in the Nordics, by the way. I worked with the company. I've been consulting a company, and they got me on board to work on a performance coaching program, right, with a bunch of people. And initially, I do analysis. I go around, I assess, I try to see how's the culture, what needs to be addressed, and I go to the kitchen, and I'm not BSing. In the kitchen, the only thing you had in the kitchen was candy bars, Red Bulls, Coke, and more sweets.
Yeah.
And it's like these guys are super stressed. They're not taking breaks.
Yeah.
It's very stressful what they do because they're traders, right? So if they make if they have a bad trade, that could mean millions for the company. On a positive, on a loss, right? Like, so, and once they have this super stressful moment, what do? They go to the office, they get more Red Bulls.
Yeah,
They get
exactly.
more, like, so you create an environment and you set your team for failure. Maybe short term they can push it through the day, but
Yeah.
that's not healthy. And as a leader, that's the beautiful thing. You can actually design things.
Exactly.
You can have a weekly call. We had with my team a call that's called Personal Development Hour. Once a week, we talk about a topic connected to personal development. One of the days
Mm.
it could be about breaks. I can invite you
Yeah.
and talk about breaks, right?
Happy to come.
Have
Happy
an
to
hour.
come.
Have an hour. Talk about breaks. Not related specifically to the bottom line, to business, to revenue, but it's about, hey, we're coming together because we want to learn how to feel better and maybe perform better some of the weeks. But you
Yeah.
create these spaces as a designer of the whole thing,
Yeah.
and we have so many options. I think we, as you said, people are so busy these days, or they feel they're busy,
Mm.
and they're bragging
Mm.
about their calendar. I, I have nothing in my calendar tomorrow and the day after. I have one or
Yeah.
two meetings for the next 2 days. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't have a Calendly because I don't want people to have access to my
Yeah.
time. I want to have freedom. I love it when people say, I don't have time to eat. I'm like, I'm sorry for you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you. How can I help you? You need help.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And I agree with you. And I think that's one of the most motivating things for me being an entrepreneur is kind of the freedom and the power and the possibility to design the kind of company and culture where you want to work. And as I mentioned earlier, I think leaders are they are the ones who people look to for example. So it's not even what they say, it's how they work. And the classic line from airplane safety is, put on your own oxygen mask before you can help someone else. I believe that when it comes to leading people in business as well. So a manager who is not well, who is not taking care of themselves, and who is, on the verge of burnout, there is no way they can lead others and create a high performing culture and get long term substantial results. It's an impossible combination. But I think change is happening, and here I'm circling back to AI once again, because we don't have to look forward, even many years. The way even the work that a lot of us are doing is gonna look different because we're going to be managing a lot of agents as well, and many of a lot of the work that we're doing is I believe going to be on a more abstract level. So instead of us writing emails and drafting strategies and managing sales pipelines and doing finance and investor comms and whatever, a lot of it is us more of managing the agents on doing a lot of the operational tasks. And I think that's exciting. And it also, I think, means that uh, this notion of 9 to 5, or this notion of us having to be efficient every hour that we're working is going to be bygones. And I think it's a very good time and a healthy time for all of us to be kind of re-examining the way that we're working and also how we want to work. Because I think technology and technological development is not, I don't think of it as something that is happening to us, more as what's happening with us. And I think it's a great way for us also to redesign the way that, how can we be excited about what we're working in, find it meaningful what we're working, thrive, whatever is our definition of thriving, and also have fun at work. Because if we look at the time that we have, this is becoming a little philosophical, but bear with me. If we look at the time that we have um, on Earth statistically, and the amount of time that we use working, which is a significant amount of time, if you're not even enjoying it, and if the way that you're doing it is not sustainable, I really kind of want to encourage and challenge everyone to make a change, and actively also start with the small changes.
Another great guest we had on the podcast, Andrew Tarvin, a humor engineer. That's his
Mm.
official title. He's, what I remember from, he was on the podcast twice. Actually, quite recently, a few months ago. You can go check
Mhm.
him out. He has this phrase, what gets fun, gets done.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I haven't heard that, but that's a good one. What gets
No,
fun
but
gets done.
What gets fun gets done, and
Yeah.
he's promoting this type of culture where it's not about not being productive. It's the opposite. It's how
Yeah.
can we make things more fun?
Yeah.
And when it's more fun and it's like a game, it's like a play,
Mm,
we are more excited to get it done. Hey
yeah.
guys, let's write this email. Yeah, let's, like, you bring in the vibes on
Yeah.
top of the plan and everything. So even if it's difficult and you have to do your
Yeah.
counting and it's like, can I play some music? Can I get a cup
Yeah.
of cocoa? Can I whatever? Like he had one of those things that he said, if I receive a email that I don't want to read from tax authorities, right? And then
Yeah.
then then it's gonna be like he's gonna read it with a different accent. Hello, Andrew. Hi, welcome. Would like to tax you a little
Yeah.
more. and he's like, I
The
read it with
mafia
this.
is coming.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, the stress is a little less because you don't take yourself so serious. So
Exactly.
it's part of it. Productivity and fun, they go
Yeah.
hand in hand. They could
Yeah.
go hand in hand.
I do not disagree. I like a lot of it what you're saying. And also this reminds me of a leadership book that I read recently, and I think there was a line there um, about the effect of how people feel on, or how the people working for you and with you feel on Sunday night is a true reflection of your culture. And I think that says so much. So if the majority of people that you're working with are dreading the upcoming week on a Sunday night and it ruins their evening, there's a lot wrong in the way that you're working.
The
People
things got this
shouldn't
Friday
dread.
crowd, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
No, that's true. That's true.
there's aspects of everyone's work which are not fun, and there's aspects of everybody's tasks which are not our favorite, and which have to get done, and it's a part of it's just a part of kind of the job description, but the way we do it, and the kind of the drain that it gives us, those we can manage. And I think
And I want to invite everybody. I want to invite everybody who's listening right now.
yeah,
Literally, try and think about: can I do part of my workday a little bit more fun
yeah,
for me and for my colleagues?
yeah,
Can I join the
yeah,
meeting and just be in good vibe or share something
yeah,
fun or just? I mean, this podcast, we're having fun now. So the
yeah,
vibe
yeah,
is here. We break, like,
yeah,
we could have been. Hello, Amel. I would like to ask you about
yeah.
workplace culture. What do you think? You're smiling too much. You cannot even
I'm
pretend.
sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm
You cannot
having
even
fun.
pretend. No, but that's what I mean, right? It's like,
Yeah,
try and think about how can I make it more fun when I
yeah.
have a sales meeting. Like,
Mm,
I'm talking to a customer, I want to sell them something, right? If I'm more playful, if I'm
yeah.
more fun, if I'm in this kind of vibe, the likelihood we get into a deal is probably going to be bigger.
Mm,
Doesn't mean
absolutely.
I'm not serious and I'm not professional,
Yeah,
but you can add a little bit of that, and then you have a much better day. Even if you don't land the
exactly.
deal, you're like, you know what, I had fun.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Exactly. And something which resonates with a lot of our clients and a lot of our users has to do with kind of the feeling that people have when the workday ends, and their energy levels, and how
Mm.
they want to feel when they get home. Because the majority of people who do not place any emphasis on taking breaks or on recovery or having fun at the workplace, when they leave home after their 8 or 9 or 10 hours, and they get home, only energy that they have left is just collapsing on the couch and staying there, and starting to recover from the day. And that's not a desirable state for anyone. And we know from research that those that take breaks and enjoy themselves and have fun at work, and also prioritize recovery during the workday with just these small things that we've talked about already, they have so much more energy by the time they end their day and they get home, or they go wherever they go. Their evenings are much better. And that resonates with a lot of people. So even if, you're not motivated making your working day, or even though, work isn't motivating for everyone, and some people just kind of want to work there in quotes, the aspect of having more energy for whatever you want to do after work can be the real motivating trigger for some.
This is gold. This is gold. And for everybody listening who leads and manages at least one person,
Mm,
try and think about it next time you're planning your day or your week for the team. Try and think about, how do I want my people to feel at
mm,
the end of their working day? On top of the operational stuff, very important, right? What are the
mm,
results we want to produce? To, like, it's the end of tomorrow. Like, you guys are planning for tomorrow. It's the end
mm,
of tomorrow. What are the objectives, the results we want to reach and to produce? And then how do I want my team to feel by the end of the day?
mm,
This is gold, Amel. This is gold.
mm.
But you know
Thank
what?
you.
I want to take a few questions. We have a few comments and questions, and as always, we want to involve our audience, our beautiful, brilliant listeners. Uh, Anybody who's listening to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, any other platform, make sure to join us live next time on LinkedIn. Now I'm going to read a few comments and questions. So Aslak de Silva, common friend,
Yes.
is right now is right. It's a long comment, but
Okay.
bear with me.
Yes.
Apart from daily breaks, are we going to see seasonality focus in companies? And then there's a long explanation.
Mm-hmm.
This could also be applicable in personal development as well, giving more time to be on top of things in learning and some other time the focus on operational activities. At the event industry, this is basically happening, where the focus is on learning right after the event, fixing
Mm.
issues. But the bigger companies, it seems to be stretch after stretch each and every quarter.
I think that's a very good comment, and I agree that definitely that, again, given the speed of the way technology is advancing at the moment, we all need more time to just stay on top of it. So I do completely agree with the notion of seasonality in also kind of the performance levels. So people cannot be, for example, executing deals on a consistent level, 365 days of the year minus weekends, and we have to think of performance on a long term or a longer term scale as well, and that includes educating people, training people, allowing people to have time and take time to educate themselves, stay on top of the curve, and also leave room for innovation. Because if we're just, in execution mode, just kind of trying to get water out of a sinking boat, there's not going to be time for anyone to start kind of patching up the holes.
By the way, that's a very good topic. You are advocating for breaks and well-being. The
Mm,
whole company is advocating for health and wealth and
yeah.
wellness and so on. How do you make sure that performance and productivity doesn't suffer and people actually focus and get things done, so
Yeah.
we don't over cuddle people?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the main thing is to understand that well-being and performance are linked. They're not two separate things. One is not a must-have and one a nice-to-have. But in order for people to perform consistently and well and get results on longer term and to stay with the company and advocate for the company, they need to be taken care of. And they need to feel well, and they need to be both physically well as well, so mentally, and be able to cognitively perform as well. And I think that's something that is easily misunderstood. So if people hear workplace well-being, they think of these extras, and they think of, I don't know, yoga and cotton candy and cuddling, as you said, and that's not at all what we're selling or what we believe in. But we see Cuckoo as just another tool in a productive person's toolbox, the same way as you use Excel for creating tables and for counting, and you use Slack for message communications, you use Cuckoo for taking breaks and taking care of your physical and cognitive ergonomics, and then you use, and so forth. So it's just a tool in your toolbox to be a more productive individual.
I couldn't agree more. I can't agree more. It's performance and well-being come together.
Yeah,
So if you care for people and they're the right people, they
yeah,
usually perform better.
yeah.
And of course you have the right structures with goal
Mm,
setting, with the objectives and so on. That's part of it. That's part of the
mm,
productivity. Accountability is very important. It's also caring to keep
mm,
people accountable. So they can go hand in hand. They should go hand in hand. And since we're talking about leading people, we have a very international audience. I think we have
Mm.
more than 100 countries listening to the podcast. So
Oh,
so
wonderful.
it's like always interesting to hear about different regions in the world. And since you guys are in Finland, it's kind of interesting. How do Finns like to be led? What can we
Mm.
learn from the Finnish culture of work that we can apply in other regions in the world?
That's a great question. If we well, I'm going to have to generalize here, but in general,
Okay.
Finns are very direct, and very kind of honest. They like to be led in a very transparent way. So we're not big on small talk, and we're not big on kind of sugarcoating things. But the expectations from a leader is, as we discussed in the beginning, is to tell me what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what am I going to be measured on. And I think that's one aspect, and it differs in some cultures where you need to you cannot be as direct. It's considered rude, and that's not the case in Finland. And then I think another element, which is very very specific to Finland, it is specific to the Nordics as well, but Finland is people are very low ego. So we're not big on hierarchy. We're not big on kind of very formal levels of titles and so forth, but rather it's easy to get a hold of people, regardless of kind of rank in quotations, and people are listened to regardless of their kind of title.
Yeah, I've met some Finns, and I lived in Denmark for 10 years. It's not exactly
Yeah,
the same, but
yeah,
I
there's
was a little bit
similarities.
surprised initially that the CEO, everybody calls him Morten. Like,
Yeah.
they don't say Mr. Anderson or whatever, they say Morten, and they just drink beer on Friday with everybody else with the
Yeah,
jeans, and takes the bike and go home, right? And it's like, is that a CEO? It's,
exactly.
but that's the culture, and
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah,
don't like to be rushed. People are usually efficient, very structured. Their calendar is like filled 3 months in the future, right?
yeah.
It's like, hey, let's have coffee, and they say, sure, in July, 3 o'clock on 27th of July, and you're like, come on, dude. But that's the culture, right? And it's
Yeah,
but then they don't like to be rushed. They
yeah,
will get things done, but on their own pace.
yeah,
Like, if you
yeah,
start rushing too much and rushing the others, they'll be like, hey, dude, just
yeah. Chill.
slow down a little. Yeah, chill a little bit. Talking about Finland, you've been on the Apprentice, right?
Yes,
The Finnish, like, how how was that experience? When did that happen?
yes.
Tell us about it. And what did you learn about leadership and your role as a CEO today from this experience?
Yeah, yeah. So
Tell us,
I've
what's the
been
Apprentice? Some people probably don't know.
yeah. Okay. Well, The Apprentice, it's a reality TV show, which Donald Trump is famous for. He's the owner of the concept still. So there's
Shout out
a
to Donald.
yeah, a name I would rather not mention, but yeah. So the concept is that there's a
Don't worry,
main
it's all over the news. All over the news.
a main guy who is looking to hire someone, an apprentice, and then he has two advisors, and then it's a reality show. So there's 16 contestants, and there's different tasks that they have to do, and one is eventually hired, and everyone else is fired. Which is what it's famous for. So I've been an advisor, so one who is then advising the main guy. In Finland, it was a guy, so thus I'm saying guy, for 2 seasons, and it was a lot of fun. I haven't done TV work, or I haven't done reality TV besides from that, so I obviously learned about I learned a lot about show business. But it was interesting from a kind of managerial and also from a business perspective, because the kind of the people who were on the show were just so different, the contestants, from the kind of people that I'm used to working with. And the pool of contestants was so diverse, which made it very, very interesting, because I'm used to working, and this is not a positive thing, that I'm used to working with mainly other business school graduates. And people think in a very specific way. And what I kind of loved about doing the show was that there were people who were, former plumbers, former entrepreneurs, maybe a former hockey player, then a few business school graduates, maybe a lawyer. And when people were given a task, the tasks were usually like, here's €1,000, or organize an event, and which team organizes a better event with more attendees wins, and whoever loses, someone's going to get fired, and so forth. So that's that would be a typical kind of episode. The way people with different backgrounds and different mindsets approached these tasks was so different. And it was so interesting for us advisors as well, because people came up with these kind of ideas that I could have never thought of with my kind of with my background and with my peer group. And it was a lot of fun, and very, very educational. And also, I think the way we talked about communications a lot in the beginning of this episode, and I think when there's people from extremely different backgrounds, and because it's very high pressure, because everyone wants to win, and because there's a ton of cameras and pointed in everyone's face, and there's the big prize, and so forth, communication matters even more. So how you tell people and what you say, and what they pick up on, and what's kind of what is even the point that you're trying to get across. So it's a lot of fun, but it is show business. So it is it is even though there's things that can be learned and applied in real business, there's also elements which are just not just for show.
I can imagine there's so many things in the backstage that
Yeah.
the audience doesn't see that you've seen. But I guess that's going to be a topic for another episode that we record together. I hope you have a couple more minutes. Let me know if you don't. But
Yes.
First of all, I also want to give a shout out to everybody joining us live. Thanks, guys, for being with us. Madlena Ivanova is saying great conversation. Anisha Talukdar is saying hi. I'm Anisha and I'm from Bangladesh. Hello, Anisha. Thank you for being with us all the way from Bangladesh. Wow. Yeva, an avid listener, by the way, she's been listening from the first episode. So wow. Yeva, hello. Thanks for being with us. She has a comment from actually some time ago. A short walk, even a few blocks, truly helps to reset, she says. And then she has a short question. I think it's a good way to wrap up this episode. Mm-hmm. She's asking, would it be possible that leaders feel guilty to take a short break?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of the inhibitions regarding taking a break are the same for leaders and for employees. And it is exactly what you, Stoyan, said earlier. People feel like, oh, I'm slacking off. I'm not doing my job if I'm off my computer for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and taking a break, when actually it is the opposite. You will be a more productive, and you will make better decisions once you manage to let go for a little bit. And these feelings of guilt, which are totally understandable and totally humane or human, it's because we're just so used to this culture where we will believe that whose calendar is the most full is doing that, working the hardest. And I think that's the narrative that we need to change.
So thank you so much. Great question, Eva, once again. And I don't want this episode to finish. I wish it was like 3 hours, but I know that Amel needs to take a break before her next meeting. So I think we need to wrap it up very soon. So we're definitely going to have you back. Guys, in the comments, let us know if you enjoyed this episode, if we should invite Amel to join us again for episode number 2 for the continuation. And just to wrap up the episode, Amel, final words to the audience, to all the people out there listening, employees or leaders. And then if you can also give us a bit of a overview, where could people find you, get in touch, and find your product? So, wrap up words.
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much. Thank you for listening and for joining. You're always welcome to reach out to me, either through LinkedIn. Find me there, Amel Gaily, or shoot an email, amel@cuckooworkout.com. And I think if there's one thing that I hope you take away from this conversation, remember the research and the study that I talked about earlier, what Microsoft did with the brain caps and measuring the brain wave activity. So picture that next time you find yourself conflicted about taking a break between meetings. You can easily Google it and find the study as well, and then have the picture ingrained on in your memory. but taking breaks and making sure that you recover during the workday, it's not a service not only to yourself, but it's one to your employer and your customers as well.
Where could people find you and learn more about the product?
So LinkedIn, you can easily find me there, reach out there, and you can find our webpage at cuckooworkout.com.
All right, you heard the lady. Thanks so much, everybody. If you have any further questions, post them in the comments or drop a DM to Amel or to me. Thanks so much for listening to the Productivity Mastery podcast. We'll keep bringing you world-class guests, so make sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all major podcast platforms. The more people subscribe, the more leverage we have to bring even more exciting guests. So thank you so much for your support, for making it to the end of the episode. See you once again. Remember to take breaks.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.